Welcome back. Thank you for watching those ads. Just waiting on GuMiho to ready up. Got a tweet out. Reminder to use the code BTSL4 for the Matcherino. And it's going to be a best of 5, starting off on Cactus Valley. GuMiho is ready, so let's do it. Just us two in the lobby as observers. Nothing fancy. You know, people were talking like a big talk about Halo Wars or whatever it was called, and then Dawn of War 3, and I was actually interested because I had heard so much about the franchise beforehand. But, of course, it was a new game, and I didn't really want to spend 60 bucks or 50, whichever one it was. I was like, I'll wait. And I'm glad I waited. It doesn't look that fun. It doesn't look like my cup of RTST, you know? But, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other people like it. Oh well. It's best of 5. In the top left on Cactus Valley, it is the Red Terran Psystorm Gaming's GuMiho. In the top right is the Yellow Zerg. It's Solar. Pretty sure everyone went smooth. So this is the first semifinals. The second one is going to be Hurricane Patience versus Impact. So a guaranteed PvZ. Pretty sad that Hero didn't show up for one reason or the other. Maybe he forgot, or maybe he just thought it was earlier and then was like, it's too late. As I didn't really mention that. With the little bit of a late start from me, I didn't get to mention that it's kind of just a late start in general. 10 a.m. EDT not being the usual time for BTSL. 6 a.m. is the usual time. Reason being, Solar had to play in the GSL, and we want to give him plenty of time to come back from it, especially if it went a bit long. And he, of course, has to get back home, so like however long that takes. And he was in time, fine. No worries at all. And now he's already won against Zest with a nice and easy 2-0. And is on his way to face GuMiho. Now, these guys are already in the money, so at least $75, I believe it is. Yes. The grand prize is 250. Not too shabby. And if you want to contribute to that prize pool, go to the Matcherino. Now that you are getting a rough idea of who's going to be getting the money, it might be a little more tempting. The game is going to go for 2-on-1. Open up with the Reaper. He did SEV scouts just to the very, very right to see where the Overlord was coming in, and he should have seen it. But he might have been confused. Oh, no, he's going the right way. Taking a very interesting path. Again, I'm pretty sure he knew where the Overlord was coming from, but maybe hoping to catch the Lings. Although I would say most of the time the Lings, if they're going to go for early Lings, just kind of wait around here, not take the long way around. But he would probably know Solar more than I do, having played him a bajillion times, both in ladder, I'm guessing, but also a couple times in tournaments. Either way, he gets here and is going to be trying to scout exact timings, and of course if there's a Roach Warren, which there's not, it really is just a macro build from Solar. Reaper, please? Okay. Since the Reaper didn't get a scout in the third base and he didn't scout in the main base, it is going to be nice to have that alive for a little bit while longer, just in cases. Center the Zelnaga at the very least, and to wait to see if maybe you see Roaches or Lings on the way, which you will not. Solar is just droning. But the 2-on-1 is still underway, needs to get that starport ready to go. There's the SCV. Thank you to Aunt Asku for the 3-month resub. Keep up the great work. Much love, Zombie. Thank you very much. Stejo with his other account, I guess? I could have sworn he subbed yesterday. Is a new sub. Thank you very much. Rifkin is in chat, really, but he is also sick, which is why he's not casting with me on stream. Oh, so a bit of an update from our admin. I don't really mind this, as it'll probably time up well anyways. But it looks like Hero, maybe there's like some more like miscommunication than there was an intention to be late, question mark, where Impact and Hero really wanted to play each other, even though Impact had been the walkover. So yeah, miscommunication, but now clarifying that Hero and Impact are playing each other. So that might be not a PvZ in the semifinal, but a PvP, so there are a lot of Protosses still left over. But alright, now for the here and now, in this best of 5, game number 1, we have GuMiho adding a bit of a twist to the 2-1-1. He's going for Hellions and Hellbats, more specifically with an armory here, and kind of skimping on the Medivacs for now. There's like multiple ways to do this type of variation with it, but this one does include less Medivacs. It's not something that Solar has seen, and GuMiho might be really hoping and predicting that he's going up against someone who's not going to get Roaches, because again, for a long time, the Roach one was not put down. But it is down, and the Roaches are already on the way, and that's going to be kind of bad news for this variation of the 2-1-1. There really aren't a lot of Marines here, and the Hellbats are supposed to add that really big punch, but against Roaches, they're really not going to. And there's just not enough Marines to make up for the lack of the Hellbats punch. So unfortunately for GuMiho, he's going to have to try and macro out of this, when the macro aspect of this variation is just not as potent, as powerful as the regular one. You know, you don't have your double engineering bays already on the way. You don't have a third CC already on the way. In fact, you don't even have a third barracks already on the way. He's gonna get all that, unless he's gonna go for a 2-base push. But the point is, like, he's going to get his production and all that ready to go soon enough. But you're also missing what would usually be like the other 2 Medivacs. You know, 4 Medivacs in total that you could really threaten the Zerg with or start dropping everywhere. Just the 2. Should be okay for Solo to deal with, but he already lost an Overlord, lost a Ravager, lost a Queen, losing a couple drones. 5 drones go down before he really gets in there to respond. Not too shabby for GuMiho. Single Hellion has to deal with a bit of a Ling counterattack. We have Cyclones on the way, which is a very interesting idea. I am very curious to see if he's going to continue. Well, you know, I think that's what it is. I guess he's gonna get a 2-base all-in with this. Like, this is not what I expected when I say 2-base follow-up, of course. I meant like more like with tanks following it up, because Cactus Valley also is pretty nice with like putting tanks right here. But no, it's Cyclones. Oh. We'll see how this works out. He does kind of blitz on top of the Roaches that have been split, so many of them had gone up to the north to deal with the drops that he just didn't anticipate so many bio down here. A Liberator had sieged up, and while it didn't kill that many drones, although they're being slaughtered now, it did help kill the eggs. GuMiho does throw down a 3rd base, by the way, while this is happening, so while he still doesn't have any upgrades, he'll have an economy, and Solar can't say the same for him, really. He's cut down to 45 drones, which is a terrible, but GuMiho, keep in mind, is going to have double and soon-to-be triple mules. A couple Hellbats and a Marine get into that natural base as well, get a few more drones. Could have been worse with the Hellbats, and GuMiho has got to stop rallying. Very interesting. I'm still wondering about these Cyclones. For me, they seem like very much so an emergency unit, unless you're going to go for mech, or that specific early game Cyclone Hellbat push. Like this, along with Bio, it really felt like he was worried about being countered, but obviously he was the one that was going to be aggressive, and his aggression really worked out. So I was going to have to commit to making more and more drones. But Cyclones in general just don't, like, there got to either be like a ton of them with like 1 or 2 upgrades, or they really are just the early game defensive unit. Let's see what happens. I'm very curious. Maybe this is brilliant, maybe it's never going to be as good as tanks, which he did swap, finally, that reactor for the starport and the tech lab on the factory. Overlord did spot the 3rd CC, so Solar knows that, well, 1, like, that wasn't an all-in, but it was dedicated. This is the best way to put it. But then, like, 2, there is potentially a weak point with that 3rd CC. So he should maybe try and attack. The Cyclones are just going to be that little bit of an added element that I'm not sure Solar is going to anticipate. He sees 4 Cyclones and maybe expected more, but that instant stim is the thing that forces him to move back for a second. I mean, Solar took economic damage, but GuMiho is only working off of, well, technically 3 production facilities with that factory working, I suppose. So there isn't really a lot of army for GuMiho. His tank is late, the Cyclones don't add enough damage, and he took the fight where maybe he should have just abandoned ship on the 3rd base and tried to hold the natural. He won't have upgrades for quite some time, and Solar is just pumping Roaches. He's on 3 bases, 59 drones again, which he had to remake, sure, but it still ends up being his army supply advantage and his upgrade advantage. That single tank is not going to live very long, I don't think. I mean, the choke is going to be really great for it. It's a couple of shots, it's going to get out. But I think if Solar really wanted to, he could just push the issue. GuMiho manages to save his SCVs. I think this would be better if it was a drop, although it's hard to say. This is just not going to be defended. Like, Solar is moving every single unit he can to the front lines, but it's not, just SCVs. Second tank is going to have to be picked up if he hopes to survive even a little bit longer, but there's so many units. All he needs is that high ground, which he has, and that's it. Solar takes game number 1. Yeah, it didn't look so great as soon as GuMiho had to you know, think of other avenues with your attack. Like, you're really supposed to just kind of run in, almost kind of blitz the Zerg player, say like, hey, you didn't expect Hellbats and I have them. And if they have 11 roaches, you gotta really think about other things to do. And it commendable what he did with that situation. He just picked up and dropped and harassed, and it was very good as a follow-up, but clearly not good enough to make up for what would have been later tanks, lack of production, lack of upgrades. Yeah. I mean, if Solar had just done a macro game, not pushed the issue with Roaches and Ravagers so quickly, GuMiho probably has a really good game in him. But that ended up being a perfect attack. GuMiho asked for Abyssal. Let's get into that. It's game number 2 in the best of 5. In the bottom right, his map choice. It is the blue Terran GuMiho. In the top left is the red Zerg. It is Solar. Thank you to Eric Twitch for the Twitch Prime sub. Taking a long time for Twitch Alert to pick it up, though. Update to the bracket. Hurricane 2-1 Patience. That's pretty cool. Patience is that guy that everyone will look at how many good players he's beaten and say that he is very, very underrepresented and undervalued as a player. And I'll say, yeah, you're right. But I still undervalue him personally. So where I think that should look like an upset on paper and other people, for me, I'm like, well, Hurricane's been doing really well, first of all, in PvP and in general. He won 2 of the Korean tournaments like 2 weeks ago. And then second of all, Patience is just not consistent enough for me to be totally on board the hype train, I guess. A little more important right now is the double racks coming out here. I mean, it is going to be Reapers, but it's not a 3 racks, and it's not on a map you'd usually expect the macro version, shall we say? The non-proxy version, right? So, a couple different weird things. I guess the 3rd barracks is just coming down really late, never mind. Okay, most people don't 2 racks. If you're gonna open up with Reapers, you really should just go for the entire 3rd rocks. But the point is, this doesn't really wall off nicely on Abyssal, so it creates a very odd dynamic. And Abyssal's a very long map, with an okay jump up spot for Reapers, but not like super flippin' amazing. So it's interesting to see him bring it back out. It's really kind of died off, especially in the last month. That's not even... I guess it's going to be a wall when he adds a tech lab, but isn't that a gap? Whatever. First Reaper is on the way. Solar didn't even bother sending his Overlord to the path of potential multiple barracks, because who does that anymore? That's what I think he does it for anyways. So this is really coming in as a surprise. As soon as he sees the 2nd Reaper, he's going to realize what's up, but he didn't really have the mental preparation or even the build preparation as he takes the 3rd base right now. It might be a little bit tricky to deal with. 2nd Reaper finally shows itself, and Solar might be regretting not building more Lings, even like it was kind of building drones. Because if it's a single Reaper, you're supposed to take the least amount of damage and respond in the least dedicated way. But, you know, as is, he actually even cancels the 3rd base. That's 1 part for minerals and 2 part because if the Reapers saw that and got on top of it, with the grenades, even as delayed as they are now, like, you can kill a 3rd base for sure, and speed still wouldn't be done to even help it out. More Reapers are coming in. GuMiho is gonna go for that natural command center and maybe even a 3rd CC after that. Oh, I already built a tech lab. Not really that many Reapers. Very light on the Reapers. 6 Reapers, but it's already done quite a bit of damage. That's the 2nd queen that went down right there, I believe. Oh no, it's the one first. Just kidding. I'm crazy. Well, the other one was taking a lot of damage, so that's my defense. But one queen and a handful of lings is not so bad. The fact that he got a cancel on a third base is pretty nice, and he really didn't dedicate a lot to it at all. So already, second commands are almost done. Didn't go for the 3cc version, but did go for the immediate follow-up of Factory, and as well as like really well-timed stim for the build he chose to open with. Even getting a secondary wall off, which some Terrans might skip, but might be the difference of life and death if they do Baneling Bust attack you. Not Solar's plan. Solar never got a Baneling Nest, and he is just going for his third base, but he's kind of been duped. He made a lot of lings, anticipating more Reapers, because again, his Overlord wasn't on top of the barracks for such a long time. And I would say that GuMiho gained, like, there's a net gain here for him. And we'll see what he can do with the follow-up as well, because that's another thing that Solar hasn't scouted, is there a factory or is there a third CC? He sees production was added on super early, so he might be guessing a fast factory starport, but it's like not a for sure thing. So 2 drones go down as the Reapers do just suicide in. They want to get a scout, and they wanted to see what they could do against the drones. The third base looked tempting, but there are speedlings, so that's never going to go down with this amount of health. And the Reapers die. So, I mean, they can be helpful for the push. Maybe it wasn't worth sacrificing them, but oh well. He's going to have 2 medevacs very shortly here, and stim. I mean, it is still... it's still going to be a nice amount of pressure, but it is coming in like a minute later than most other builds, right? 2-1-1 or something like that. Ling looking for a third base that could have been on location, honestly. Like, if you really want to play ballsy as a Terran player, you can do that, and you sometimes get away with it. The combat shield starts up immediately as well. And there's the pickup on the Marines. Almost perfect. There's too many Marines. Hellion's being produced now from the factory that has a reactor on. I didn't even notice that. He kept a reactor on that. So he's following up with a Hellbat attack. Almost like last game, but with a very different opener. And Solar is not going for a Roach Warren. He's not going for Roaches at all. Confirmed this time with melee attack on the way. And that's where the Hellbats are really going to look powerful. Unless he already pre-makes a ton of Banelings. The Marines come in. They take care of the Creep Tumor. They take care of the Overlord. They find that choke that is so brutal. I'm so surprised that Solar has to take this. I guess that's the thing, though. He has to take the fight. But he just got all of his Lings slaughtered. Has to make so many more. Does manage to tap that medevac down in the last bit of health. Didn't expect that. I thought that was going to survive, but damn. That was a meat grinder. 45 Lings for 11 Marines? Questionable. Of course, GuMiho once again just holding off on his upgrades in favor of that armory and the Hellbat attack. A Ling does see that preemptive, and that's really good. Solar might have already made Banelings anticipating the follow-up Marine push, because it's just Marines, Marines, and Marines. But seeing the Hellbats too, he might want to just overmake Banelings, as well as, you know, never stop making Lings. He's at 57 drones, so this is an okay thing to do, with still having a decent, you know, macro game behind it. But he has to make sure not to underestimate the Hellbat potential and the micro potential, of course, as well. Like, he takes care of the Hellbat, that's all well and good, but now he's going down to 5 Banelings, and that's snipeable range, especially going down a choke like this. And if they all get sniped, that's when Solar starts crying tears. More Hellions on the way, more Marines on the way. GuMiho might still, in fact, go for a third base, but he will have those super late upgrades. And still not as much of bio production as you would want on 2 bases going into 3, which is 5 barracks, not 3 barracks. So there are definitely problems if he has to macro out of this, just like last game. No spur callers on the natural means that these drops are going to be a little bit more annoying than even usual. Queen is doing a decent job target firing, but even 3 Marines will take care of that Queen. Attack over here has to be lifted. Hellbats do soak up a couple Banelings more. This drop's going to kill the Queen and still have medevac to live. Nicely done. Usually this is not an opportunity granted, I would say, in Abyssal Reef. Usually very early on there's like a spore crawler. There's the micro on the Banelings. They are still slow after all, and that choke was brutal. The upgrades are done for the Lings, so when you see a surround go down, it might be favorable for Solar, but not with those Hellbats and not with that many Marines. So he has to back off and wait for more Banelings, but it might already be too late. This might have been the exact scenario that GuMiho was waiting for to win the game. Queens are trying to target fire medevacs. They stop for a second. He's making more as he has minerals, but just not larvae, I suppose. His Queens have been going every single which way to deal with the drops, deal with the attacks, the natural, third, and main. So So he has not had the time to get the larva injects. He hasn't had time to get a macro hatchery, and of course still not on a 4th base, which around 9 minutes you would already be on in a regular TvZ. So it was hurting for a second in that regard. But he starts his 2-2, he's a Spire on the way, and now he's depleted his bank for the most part, but still, you know, kind of light on the army supply, 35 to 45. It's still a very scary scenario. But GuMiho has managed to catch up pretty, not like completely right, but a lot in the upgrades. Only behind about 30 seconds here. 30cc built on location is going to finish on location. Nice little grab for him. A single Ling could have stopped this probably earlier on. And into Widowmines, as he does by now confirm that his Mutaling Bling, right? 4th base still going to be denied. Drop in the natural is just Hellbat, so the Medivac is going to leave him. Pretty good use. Banelings get soaked up. Attack on the 3rd base, attack on the natural, the 3rd base for both players, I suppose, but it is GuMiho's. Looks so much scarier. The Muta's accidentally going first, and they get absolutely slaughtered. Banelings are being split against. Maybe could have done better quicker, but still he soaked up all of the Banelings, which means that I would put that pretty good for GuMiho, but he is cleaned up, and he is pushed back. Now, Solar doesn't have a 4th base, he doesn't have creep spread, and he has so many queens that have, you know, they can start creep spread, but they just haven't been able to. So now he finally gets on it as he has room to breathe. But GuMiho has Liberators, he has Widowmines, he has Production, and his 3rd CC is just turning into an Orbital. I didn't think GuMiho forgot Combat Shields. He started that immediately after Stim. So. If he had, this would be a very different game. Missile turrets up, ready to go. Widowmines ready to be placed in very specific spots, I think. As I said, 2-2, not too far behind. No. 42 to... Yeah, actually, they were about 60 seconds behind. So that's about a full minute, right? Where Solar could take a very, very good fight. I thought GuMiho had caught up a little bit more, but I guess he was late to the 2-2 with his gas. Terrans usually don't mind gas, but when it comes to the early to mid-game, we need gas just as much as anyone else. Upgrades, factory, and starport production does at least require some some gas. So, GuMiho cleans up an Overlord, building a bunker for safety, as sure Solo will try and get the counterattacks in sooner or later. Meter counts are going to grow, and they are getting +1. 14 is kind of a scary number. 16, with 2 more on the way. That's definitely enough to even tear down a missile turret that isn't repaired fast enough. Gets a couple Widowmines. Definitely a good grab. More production on the way. Liberator is taking a very, very, very long time to deal with these Overlords, and that counterattack does come in here. The bunker has some Marines, but it's not enough. He needs more reinforcements. It's turning almost into a base trade. He scans ahead, sees no Banelings, but they could be morphing somewhere else. There they are. There's really not that many, but the Widowmines... Oh, no. Okay, things are getting very chaotic. He accidentally moved into the Banelings, where if he had moved away... there would be probably at least 6 more Marines in this, and that is the difference of winning the base trade and losing it, as it is a base trade. Barracks are now going down. Liberators just desperately siege up in liberation mode, but the entire army of GuMiho has been cleaned up. GG. Solar takes game number 2. Very nice games by Solar. Solar has, in our tournaments, been kind of underwhelming, unfortunately. Just, so should be such a good player, but just, you know, loses before we really get a chance to talk about it. So now that he's showing just how dominant he can be, maybe he's riding a high off GSL, I don't know. It's nice. Next up's going to be Newkirk, but since Solar needs a minute anyways, going to go to a quick 2-minute commercial break. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. It is game number 3 and could be the last game. In the bottom right, down 2-0. It is Psystorm Gaming's GuMiho. In the bottom left, as the yellow Zerg, it is Splice Solar. Thank you, Rifkin, for the 99 bits. Almost kills the bit boss. And I think just now we had Bacon Hero. Should have maybe killed it? We'll see if it ever updates. Untouched Matrix resub for 5 months. Good job. Keep up the good work, CG. Go Zerg. Cheering for Solar, I suppose. And Cyril, with a C, So completely different than the gamer Cyril. Resub for 14 months, so thank you very much. Ezrifkin also donated, or cheered, whatever you want to call it, a lot more bits before this to kill the boss even more, but there has been a bit of a bit boss battle happening. It's nice to see. Ads are working today. Yesterday was a bit of a bust, and I was appreciative of all the bits that you guys sent that way. If you want to cheer for the players, you can do so by more than just cheering for them on Twitter or on Twitch. You can give them money basically directly, almost, as close as you can possibly get, unless you just, you know, donate to them, I guess, if they stream. If they stream. Mara was streaming yesterday. That was a big surprise. Anyways, by going to Matcherino. They are in the money right now. This is the semi-final. The other semi-final is going to be Hero versus Hurricane, as Hero did win 2-0 over Impact, and Hurricane won 2-1 over Patience, so that is being held for us. Yeah, everyone's in the money now. And if you want to contribute more money to your favorite player, if they happen to be in the top 4, then you can do so by going to Matcherino. If the code is still available, then it doesn't cost anything to you, just a freebie $1. But if it isn't, then you're going to have to be a little bit more generous and actually put in maybe even $2. What do we have here? We had a marine opener from GuMiho. Factory, very quickly on the way. This is very suspicious tech lab placement, to be honest, and I feel like it should be a second factory. Or, no, a starport. Yeah, that makes more sense. Well, there could have been a second factory. But no, this is very peculiar. Like, this is... You didn't even wait for the reactor to put on the barracks, to put on the factory. That's some pretty quick starport timing. Well, I feel like this was supposed to be hidden a little bit better, but Lings get right on top of that ramp, and that was the wrong thing to look at. See that starport being produced so quickly, see the lack of a reactor on the factory as well, and knows that it's not really going to be about worrying about the ground, about your Hellion run-bys along with the Banshee. It really is more just about the Banshee. Now, so finally swapping over the Hellions, but it looks like a very awkward opener. Montyun with another 100 bits does take the bit boss. Solar gets third base. Still just droning. And maybe a couple extra queens, as Zergs usually do. But also to help out versus those Banshees. It's gonna do a Spore Crawler very soon. I mean, it's not guaranteed to be Banshee anymore, but this just confirmed that it is, which is very nice. I was gonna say a Raven is also possible, but with just how quickly that starport came down on this tech lab, I would have been very suspicious of Banshee, Cloak Banshee. But with the confirmation, Spore Crawlers do go down. Cyclones are on the way. I was really wondering if GuMiho was going to do something a little bit trickier. I mean, he already did. Like, that was such a fast tech lab for your starport. But then even beyond that, so instead of more Hellions, it's going to be more Cyclones. And then I guess the other question that everyone should have is, will GuMiho go mech? As he is a player that can do so, but doesn't do it as commonly anymore. Hellions do manage to get into the high number of 4, which is pretty perfect for run-bys. So they just scoop onto the third base and run right back out, get 3 drones for the trouble. Banshee has to stay a little bit out, unfortunately. Looks like it killed a drone that was transferring. But other than that, not bad. Overlord dies over here. Vikings, of course, looking for more Overlords to kill. Overlord still manages to see Cyclones on the way, and this is getting really suspicious. I mean, 4 Hellions and 2 Cyclones isn't quite confirmation that it's mech yet, along with Banshees and Vikings. But if you saw the armory, that's when things are really suspicious. Now, Solar, I mean, everyone knows GuMiho a lot. He does play in a lot of the online cups, and I'm guessing he plays, like, ladder a lot as well. I feel like it might be the safer choice that Solar is just skimping on right now to get a Roach Warren just in cases. But not so far. So still only dealing with Lings and Queens with Transfuse. And they do have Transfuse, like they're not too bad, not too shabby, but no Lings on the way as he is supply blocked thanks to the Viking. Lings do manage to get a cancel, however, on that third base. That's some nice damage to make up for having to deal with the Hellbats and the Cyclones. That's just too many Queens, too many Transfuses, and Solar's gonna have to, or GuMiho's gonna have to try and a different path here. But without the Hellions, these drones should be able to escape. And once again, GuMiho gets into third base and leaves immediately. Doesn't actually care. Banshee dips in. I mean, this Banshee has done a decent job. Oh, unfortunately gets AI'd. Oh, unfortunate. Oh, seven workers wasn't too bad. Not too great either. Oh well. Another Banshee was available. Yeah, there she is. So if there were roaches, then this is still an excellent defense. Because it's lings, if they manage to get us around in the Hellions, Banshees do take a very long time to clean them up, so it's like a little bit worrying. And that's exactly what the lings do. They run in here, get this around in the Hellions. These Hellbats rather have to come back. This Banshee over here is trying to get some damage done, not going to work out. And lings are going to take down a couple SCVs, get a couple more units as well. I mean, this really wasn't the most successful use of about 20 lings here. 2 SCVs, 3 Hellions, I think it was, or 4 rather, 4 Hellions. But it was nice. It definitely messed up the flow of GuMiho, and of course they were the ones that initially canceled the 3rd CC, which is now only just done because of it. But it is officially mech at this point. I mean, Sim was already so late. It would have really had to have been started like literally right now, but of course it's instead 2 extra factories and the +1 vehicle weapons. Solar, having used up most of his lings, still needs a bit more because he doesn't have the Roach Warren quite done yet. But he is finally getting a Roach Warren as well as a Spire, so we'll see what he goes into first. I imagine he'll go back into roaches primarily no matter what, but we'll see if he immediately makes mutas or not, as this is not a very strong anti-air composition from GuMiho, and mutas would clean this up. But GuMiho tries to push in here, but once again deflected by mostly queens, but also lings and rounds, is getting into Thors already, so the mutas are not going to be able to deal devastating amounts of damage. They did force out Thors. It's always a weird dynamic with Thors, I think, actually. Because Thors, in higher numbers, right, do have some, like, you know, they have the health pool, they can be mass repaired, they do pack a punch against roaches. But I feel like sometimes if mech players could get away with it, they wouldn't build Thors. But right now, it's the best option they really have against mutas. His Liberators got cut a long time ago, and Vikings can only do so much. So 2 Thors, mutas have to dodge and weave around this. Single Viking's gonna help out, maybe snipe one of the mutas. In fact, it did. Cyclone even almost gets that last muta. Thors are being picked up and run around. Barely saves that missile turret. Very nicely done. More Thors on the way, and more Hellions. Surprised we went for the 2 medevacs, but they were looking out quite well. Hellions get into that 3rd base, but don't kill too many drones. Just a little bit of a panic moment. Scouts the Roach Warren. And the Thors are being transported? That's very dangerous. I don't know if that's really the way to go. That is so dangerous. I mean, they're good against mutas, and there are 2 of them that kind of keep each other company, but, like, I mean, if you magic box on them along with the queens, I wonder. I do wonder. Well, they got a queen and then they left, so, okay. Mutas are going to be caught trying to fly back. This is some nice damage on those mutas. Like, they're doing a really nice job against them. But now Solar is maxing or getting close to maxed with roaches. Even the queens come along here. Muta's going to try and distract any amount of units that they can into that main base. Already doing with 2 Thors and 2 medevacs. Oh, 1 Thor and 2 medevacs. Is a nice bit of distraction. It really is a lot more about this roach attack, and there are no tanks. Only Hellions and a single Thor on the front line. I just can't believe that GuMiho is going to be able to hold this. Thor is instantly torn down. SCVs try and come out to at least buffer, but that's going to be it. GG. Solar. 3-0's GuMiho. GuMiho also had a bit of a surprising result last night. He got 2-0'd by Hero. And I thought he would at least take a game. So GuMiho maybe not feeling so hot in online cups this week. But this guy is seriously a beast when it comes to him, so I'm sure he'll bounce back soon enough. He does still grab $75 as he did beat Alive. But yeah, Solar 3-0. The next match is going to be a PvP. It's going to be Hurricane versus Hero, another best of 5. Winner of that faces Solar in the grand finals. See you soon.